Imagine yourself by the river Chebar, a distant place, but filled with the presence of God. There, Ezekiel, in the midst of exile and uncertainty, witnesses the heavens open. He sees something that transcends human understanding, living beings with four faces, each reflecting an aspect of God's majesty. The vision transports us to a plane where the eternal reveals itself to the temporal, inviting us to delve into the depths of God's purpose. Today, we will unravel together the meaning behind these images, what the man, the lion, the ox, and the eagle represent, how these symbols connect to the nature of God and to our own spiritual journey. And more, what message this vision brings to you, to me, and to our relationship with God. Allow me to guide you on this journey of discovery as I explore this vision and how it can transform our understanding of who God is and what He desires for our lives. Welcome to Daily Biblical History. Today, we will explore an inspiring message to strengthen your faith and bring peace to your heart. Leave a like to support our channel and subscribe if you are not already subscribed, so you don't miss any of the motivational content we post here. Imagine yourself in a distant land, far from the comfort of home, where God's people are exiled in Babylon. It was precisely in this desolate setting that the prophet Ezekiel received his heavenly vision. Exile was not only a time of physical pain and geographical separation, but also a spiritual crisis. The people felt abandoned, as if their covenant with God had been broken. However, it is in this context of apparent divine silence that Ezekiel shows us something surprising. The heavens opened, and he saw visions of God. The river Chebar flows through a barren and desolate land, a symbol of the loneliness and despair that defined the Babylonian exile. Ezekiel, one of God's prophets, finds himself on its banks, far from the sacred temple in Jerusalem. The land's aridness mirrors the spiritual desolation of the exiled Israelites, who feel disconnected from their God. However, this distant river becomes a conduit for divine revelation, reminding us that God's presence is not confined to a specific place. Here, in this unlikely setting, Ezekiel experiences a profound encounter with the eternal. The river Chebar, often overlooked as a mere geographical detail, carries a depth of meaning that resonates with the human condition. Its barren surroundings echo the struggles of the Israelites, displaced and longing for a return to their homeland. But more importantly, it becomes a symbol of hope, a reminder that God's voice can reach us in the most unlikely places. For Ezekiel, this place of exile becomes a holy ground, where the mundane transforms into the miraculous. The river's quiet flow amidst the desolation mirrors the undercurrent of God's unwavering faithfulness, even when His presence feels distant. This revelation teaches us that moments of stillness and places of despair can become the settings for God's most profound work in our lives. As the prophet gazes into the horizon, the heavens part before him. The event is not just a moment of personal enlightenment, but a divine declaration. Even in exile, God's glory is ever present. The opening of the heavens is both a literal and symbolic act, inviting Ezekiel and us to witness the majesty of the Creator in the midst of adversity. It is a moment that challenges us to redefine our understanding of divine presence, urging us to recognize that God's glory is not bound by location or circumstance. Instead, it pierces through the barriers of human limitation, reaching into the depths of our trials and illuminating them with His purpose. Ezekiel's vision begins with a stormy wind coming from the north, carrying with it an immense cloud. This storm, filled with flashes of lightning and glowing amber, represents the raw power and holiness of God. The wind's direction, the north, is significant, often associated with divine judgment and sovereignty in biblical literature. In the ancient world, the north was seen as a mysterious and formidable direction, symbolizing the unknown and the source of divine intervention. The storm reflects the overwhelming presence of God, a force that cannot be contained or predicted. It serves as a reminder of His majesty and the awe-inspiring nature of His power. For Ezekiel, the storm's approach is not one of fear, but of reverence, as it marks the arrival of a divine encounter. At the heart of the cloud, a blazing fire burns, radiating an unconsumable flame. The fire symbolizes God's purity and transformative presence. For Ezekiel, this fire is both awe-inspiring and fearsome. It invites him into a deeper understanding of God's nature, a holy presence that purifies and refines, consuming all that is unworthy while illuminating the path to redemption. This fire, described as glowing amber, carries with it an intensity that transcends human comprehension. It is a manifestation of God's holiness, a consuming yet life-giving force that cleanses and restores. The fire's brilliance contrasts with the darkness of the storm, symbolizing the interplay of judgment and mercy that defines God's relationship with His people. As Ezekiel witnesses this fiery presence, he is reminded of the refining power of God's love, a love that burns away impurities while preserving what is pure and true. From the center of the fire, Ezekiel perceives 4 living beings, each unlike anything he has ever seen. These creatures move with perfect synchrony, their movements directed by the Spirit. Each has 4 faces, that of a man, a lion, an ox, and an eagle. These faces are not random, but deeply symbolic, representing different aspects of God's character and His creation. The living beings, described with striking detail, embody the fullness of divine attributes. Their presence serves as a visual theology, a portrayal of God's nature through the lens of His creation. The symmetry and harmony of their movements reflect the perfect order of God's will, a stark contrast to the chaos of human existence. Their appearance, though otherworldly, speaks to the intimate connection between the Creator and His creation, or the man. A reflection of God's image in humanity, representing wisdom, reason, and relationship. It reminds us of the dignity and purpose given to every individual. The face of the man speaks to our unique role in God's plan, a role that calls us to embody His wisdom and compassion in our interactions with others. The lion, a symbol of power, authority, and courage, embodying God's sovereign rule over all creation. The lion's face challenges us to stand boldly in the truth of God's promises, trusting in His strength to overcome the adversities we face. The ox, representing strength, service, and sacrifice, it calls us to a life of dedication and faithfulness. The ox's face reminds us that true greatness lies in humility and perseverance as we serve others in obedience to God's calling. The eagle, a sign of transcendence and vision, pointing to God's ability to soar above time and space, offering renewal to those who trust in Him. The eagle's face invites us to rise above earthly concerns, seeking God's perspective and finding strength in His eternal promises. Each face reveals a facet of God's majesty, inviting us to reflect on His nature and how it shapes our spiritual journey. These living beings, with their extraordinary features, remind us of the vastness of God's character, a character that encompasses wisdom, power, service, and transcendence. They challenge us to mirror these attributes in our daily lives, becoming reflections of His glory in a world that desperately needs His light. Beside the living beings are wheels within wheels, a sight that fills Ezekiel with wonder. The wheels are covered with eyes, symbolizing divine omniscience. God sees all, knows all, and understands the deepest mysteries of our hearts. The interconnected wheels move in perfect harmony, reflecting the order and sovereignty of God's rule. The wheel's design, intricate and filled with meaning, speaks to the complexity and precision of God's plans. Each movement is purposeful, guided by the Spirit, and reveals the interconnectedness of all creation under God's dominion. The eyes covering the wheels signify God's all-encompassing awareness, a reminder that nothing escapes His sight or understanding. They assure us that even when life feels chaotic, God's plan is unfolding with perfect clarity. Above these magnificent beings and their wheels is a firmament, like a sparkling expanse of crystal. Beyond this firmament, Ezekiel glimpses a throne of sapphire, radiant and majestic. Seated upon the throne is one who appears like a man, enveloped in fiery brilliance and surrounded by a rainbow. This image encapsulates God's glory, mercy, and covenantal faithfulness. The throne, a symbol of divine authority, stands as a beacon of hope and assurance. It reminds us that God reigns supreme over all creation, His rule marked by justice and compassion. The rainbow surrounding the throne serves as a powerful reminder of God's covenant with humanity, a covenant that endures through every trial and triumph. The vision's fiery elements, its living creatures, and the throne speak of judgment, yet they also offer a profound message of hope. The fire, though consuming, purifies. The throne, though imposing, radiates mercy. Ezekiel is reminded that even in the darkest times of exile, God remains in control, working to restore His people. This duality of judgment and hope reflects the heart of God's character. A holy God who judges sin, but also a loving Father who redeems and restores. For the Israelites, the vision serves as a beacon of hope, assuring them that their exile is not the end, but a chapter in God's greater story of redemption. For us today, the vision serves as a reminder that God's presence transcends circumstances. His sovereignty assures us that no situation is beyond His reach, and His mercy invites us to draw near with faith and repentance. The vision's timeless message calls us to trust in God's plan, even when it seems unclear. It challenges us to embrace His refining work in our lives, allowing His holiness to transform us into vessels of His grace and truth. Ezekiel's encounter reminds us that God's glory is not confined to moments of triumph, but shines brightest in the midst of trials, guiding us toward His ultimate purpose. Ezekiel's vision is not just a revelation of God's majesty, but also a call to action. The four faces challenge us to embody God's attributes in our lives. Wisdom and compassion. Man. How can we reflect God's wisdom in our decisions and relationships? This face invites us to seek understanding and empathy, building bridges of reconciliation and hope in our interactions with others. Courage and authority. Lion. Where do we need to stand firm in faith, trusting in God's power? The lion's face calls us to confront our fears with boldness, leaning on God's strength to navigate life's challenges. Service and dedication. Ox. In what ways can we serve God and others with humility and strength? The ox reminds us that greatness lies in the quiet acts of service and the steady pursuit of God's will, even when it goes unnoticed. Vision and renewal, eagle. How can we seek God's perspective and rise above challenges with His strength? The eagle's face encourages us to soar above the limitations of our circumstances, finding renewal and purpose in God's promises. By meditating on these questions, we align our lives with God's purposes, allowing His glory to shine through us. The vision's application transcends time, speaking to every generation about the beauty and responsibility of reflecting God's character. It challenges us to live intentionally, rooted in His truth and guided by His Spirit as we navigate the complexities of life. As Ezekiel stands in awe of the vision, he is overwhelmed by the grandeur of God's glory. The experience leaves him humbled yet empowered, ready to fulfill his prophetic mission. This moment is not just for Ezekiel, it is for all of us. The vision invites us to live with a heightened awareness of God's holiness and a renewed commitment to His call. Ezekiel's response to the vision, one of reverence and obedience, serves as a model for our own spiritual journey. It reminds us that encounters with God's glory are not merely moments of inspiration, but catalysts for transformation. In every face of the living creatures, in every spark of the divine fire, we see an eternal truth. God is present, powerful, and purposeful. His glory calls us to worship, to serve, and to trust, even in the most desolate of circumstances. The vision's eternal call challenges us to live as bearers of God's light, reflecting His holiness and love in a world that yearns for redemption. It urges us to embrace our identity as His children, stepping boldly into the roles He has prepared for us and trusting in His unchanging faithfulness. Come with me. Let's find answers to the deepest questions of the heart together as we unravel the mysteries of Ezekiel. Don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments. I'll be there to read every word and pray for you. This is not just an ancient story. It is an eternal call to understand and live in the light of God's glory. Are you enjoying the message? Share this video with someone who needs to hear this motivational word today. And leave your comment. We want to know how this message impacted your life.